robust urban garlic flavor.
Welcome home.
So this week, Wings of Redemption finally figured out that the trolls were ruining his life. You know, maybe a decade too late. He has pretty much regained the weight he lost because of his bariatric or whatever surgery that he had to lose weight a couple of years ago. So he's in a pretty big tailspin. He talks about how he's being trolled endlessly in ways that are off the internet, how his fans are being trolled. Now, I don't really know much about Wings or if any of this is legitimate, but it's pretty obvious that Wings hates streaming. He's confirmed it, and he just can't handle all the things that lead to this because he's another lolcow that feeds the trolls. And he's finally made a good decision in deciding to step back. Who knows how long it will last? But yeah, his life would be much better off if he was off the internet. Now, how will this affect Darkside Phil? I really don't think it will much. The thing is, the Wings troll community is a lot nastier than the DSP troll community, yet Phil doesn't know that. So some of those people are going to go to other locales. They're not all going to go to like one locale. They're not all going to become LTG trolls or whomever other locale there are out there. I'm sure there are many. They're not all going to gravitate towards Phil. And Phil really, I don't think, is liable to be subjected to the IRL trolling that Wings did, because Wings was talking about how people were sending stuff to his house, how people were showing up at his house, how people were putting things on Facebook Marketplace. He would pick them up, and then people would come to his house and take it. DSP has insulated himself. He's in a gated community. So they can't get through the gate unless there is a detractor or troll inside the gated community, which I don't think it's that big of a gated community. So DSP is insulated in that regard. And in terms of his streams, yes, he does feed the trolls, but it's not in the ways that Wings did in a certain sense. So I think he's more insulated than Wings is in terms of this extreme trolling. Now, Phil gets an abundance of people just messing with him, but it's not like he has a ton of people like Duty Streams that are sending packages to his house. So I don't think this is really going to affect DSP. I don't think it's going to help his streams. I don't think it's going to hurt his streams. It's going to be the status quo for the most part. Let's be real. DSP, we're looking for like something that's going to dramatically impact his streaming career, and there really won't be anything. It's the same old, same old. The biggest thing that affected his streams was the Twitch demonetization. In the past 6 years, nothing much has changed. Sure, he had the interview with Stuttering Craig. Sure, he had the gaslighting arc with Kino Casino where he played the fool and admitted to playing WWE champions. But it really hasn't changed much in terms of the status quo. I mean, he got rid of Darich. That was pretty much the only eventful thing that happened in the DSP verse that impacted his streams in the past half decade. The memberships, who cares? The whales will give money in some other fashion. There's nothing really that's going to dramatically alter the way DSP does streams or who supports his streams. He has spent a decade plus insulating himself from the wider internet, so that the only people that can control whether Philip streams or not is Philip. He is the one who decides whether to shut this thing down. And I think what most people neglect in terms of looking at Wing streaming and DSP streaming is that DSP makes about quadruple the money that Wings did on streams. So there's a much greater incentive for him to just keep streaming. Where with Wings, there wasn't much. If anything, you could argue that Wings streaming was just a crutch, a way for him to say, oh, I did something today. Instead of, going out, walking to get the mail, trying to eat healthier, trying to slowly lose weight, he's like, okay, I may have ordered a bunch of fast food and ate it, but hey, I was on stream and I made some money, so we didn't waste a day. Whereas with Phil, it's all about, I get success when I get paid, so I'm going to make the stream entirely about that. And with Wings, he tried to make his streams as boring as possible. And over time, that's not going to garner an audience. Intentionally being boring. The one thing you could say about Phil is not intentionally boring. Yes, he's boring in most things, but he doesn't try to be boring knowingly. He doesn't really try and do anything knowingly because he's such a bad actor that it's just not going to happen because anybody will see right through him. We know the tells. We know the tendencies. Now, Wings didn't have that energy. He didn't have that hustle, if you want to call it that. He didn't have the motivation there because the trolls may have impacted it, but they were relentless on him and the people that gave him money, which absolutely I do not condone. But they were able to minimize Wings' influence. And Wings decided to be as boring as possible so that the trolls would stop clipping him. But guess what? They just kept on clipping him. So the person that Wings did the most disservice to was himself. And no, I don't think Wings could have ever handled being a content creator. He should have never been a live streamer. But it just happened. He just didn't know when to call it quits. Now with Phil, in terms of finances, I would make the argument that, yeah, he should not throw in the towel because he's still making over 100K a year. Obviously. But from a mental health standpoint, he should have quit this before even becoming a live streamer. Let's be real. He is not built for this. And people just generally aren't built for this. Having all these eyes on you, no. So, Wings finally threw in the towel a decade plus too late. DSP is going to stream until he's 60 plus. He's going to be in a nursing home, still streaming, begging for contributions. Because, that's his entertainment. It really feels like he's at a casino and he's gambling. He's like, hey guys, I'm throwing all my chips in. I'm playing this game for you. Now, will we get that big payout when the big payout is his fans giving him money? That's just how he acts. And I've been picking up on it. It's becoming more and more recurrent. It's not just begging. It's I get a dopamine rush from a donation. And, Wings, I'm sure, had that same reaction. And I'm sure that's what keeps these guys streaming. Because they're being rewarded for streaming. Now, DSP is being rewarded much more handsomely than Wings. But still, if they're making 40 to 60K live streaming, and they can't really do much else because they're overweight, out of shape, can't stay on their feet for over 10 minutes, then yeah, I could see how appealing live streaming can be. But the problem with Wings is that he never saw, hey, this could be a way to help myself as I move on to something else. This could be a way to support myself and my wife as I try to lose weight. Maybe it'll give me the extra flexibility to lose weight. But the problem is, when you're at home, it's very easy to put on the pounds because you're not out working all day. You're not at a job where you're at your feet. You have access to all the food. So it's just one fridge away. And that can be problematic for a lot of people. So yeah, obviously live streaming just wasn't the thing that works for Wings of Redemption, especially with the trolling element. And I think even without the trolls, I don't think Wings would have been cut out for this. It's just that the trolling exasperated it, and the trolls really kept Wings going, but Wings didn't even understand that. Like, it should have been clear for him, once they got him fired from that DoorDash job, that he should have been looking for an exit. Because the trolls, what they wanted for him was to struggle constantly so they could milk him for all the worth of content that he was. So he wouldn't be the beneficiary of his live streams, it would be his trolls. It's fairly similar with DSP, except DSP gets fairly much bigger restitution. And yes, he doesn't make content or make money from the quality of his live streams. It's out of pity. It's out of, hey, let's throw this clown a nickel so he will keep doing the dance. And that was the same thing with Wings, but Wings was getting much less than Phil. Wings was a terrible e-beggar compared to Phil. Phil is a very successful e-beggar. So, like, if the Wings trolls, like, tried to sink their claws into Phil, it would be much less successful because DSP has more people, or at least more whales that are willing to throw money at him. And you have this PayPal that's anonymous. You have Kick, which you can give anonymous donations. You could just make a sock account. So yeah, if you want to wail out on Phil, they would be obviously aware, at least with the light trolling comparatively that Phil has gotten over the years, that if you give money to Phil, you shouldn't be easily traceable. You shouldn't, like, have a connected Twitter account and a YouTube page like Darich did. And they're aware of this. So the Wings detractors coming in, or let's be real, hardcore trolls, they're probably not going to find most people. Or most people will just use sock accounts like how the whales use multiple sock accounts. So obviously it's pretty terrible what the Wings trolls and what DSP trolls do to fans of these lolcows. It's like you're bothering the people. Like, when the criticism should be on Phil. Like, it should be on Wings. But Phil is fortunate that he never had the attention that Wings had, because Wings had like 10 times the amount of animosity on him than Phil does on a daily basis. And I don't think Phil understands that. I think he thinks that he has it worse than Wings ever did. But actually, no. It was much worse for Wings. And everybody outside can see that. But Phil is just so full of himself that he doesn't see that. He thinks his situation is worse than everybody else. So let me know what you think about this development of Wings leaving the internet. A lot of people seem to think that he's going to come right back. Who knows? You never know about the allure of a dopamine rush donation. But honestly, I don't think this is going to affect Darkside Phil at all. Because nothing really affects Darkside Phil except like bruising his ego. It just never really affects his finances. And that's really the big thing. That's the big picture, even though DSP, you know, he's petty and he wants his cake and eat it too. But that's just how it rolls. He's going to get wailed out on and the cycle's going to repeat again and again and again. And the more terrible his behavior, the more he gets rewarded for it. The more he e-bags, the more he gets rewarded for it. That's just the DSP cycle. That's the Snortex. That's what people come by to see, the non-stop e-bagging. So it's a never-ending story until someday he just can't do it anymore. Or the whales decide, that they no longer deem it worthy to pay attention to this 44-year-old man.